This is the Garmin Venu 2 Plus. It's a full-featured GPS sport watch with tons of wellness and smartwatch features, and it features a vibrant AMOLED touch display, and it costs about $450 US. And this is the brand new Garmin Epix Gen 2. It too has a lot of wellness and activity tracking features, along with a brilliant AMOLED display, but the one I'm wearing and the one I have here cost $999 US, which is actually more than twice as much as this Garmin Venu 2 Plus. So why that epic price tag? That's what we're going to talk about in this video today. Hello friends, I'm Dave from Chase the Summit, and I'm a huge nerd, and I typically talk all things fitness tech, trail running, general running accessories, that sort of thing. And if you're into that, maybe hit that subscribe button down below and come on this ride with me. Today we're going to talk about the Garmin Epix and Venu 2 Plus and how they compare and where their features overlap. But to be honest, these are two very different devices, and this is actually an unfair comparison for the Venu 2 Plus, but it does have a couple of key features that the Epix doesn't have, even though the Epix is more than twice as much when it comes to cost. In this video, we're going to be comparing the Venu 2 Plus to the Epix in 13 categories. We're going to compare them from things like smartwatch features to GPS accuracy and everything in between, and see which one comes out on top. I'm going to keep this video pretty fact-based and objective, but I will sprinkle my subjective opinion in along the way, because that might help you decide which one is right for you, and opinions do matter. And at the end of this video, we will tally up the results and see which one comes out on top. Also, we're going to skim through a lot of the features here. We're not going to go deep diving on both of these devices. If you do want to see a deep dive on the Epix or the Venu 2 Plus, I will link my in-depth reviews up here, and you can go check those out when you have some time, but wait till after this video. So when it comes to the Venu 2 Plus, there's actually 3 versions of this watch, and then there's a bunch of colors sprinkled in there. The Venu 2 comes in a Venu 2S, which is a small 40mm watch that comes in at 38 grams. Then there's the Venu 2, which is actually the larger version. That's 45mm, and it comes in at 49 grams. And then there's the Venu 2 Plus, which came later to the party. This is 43mm, and it comes in at 51 grams. So this actually lands right in between the smaller Venu 2S and the Venu 2, but it's actually the heaviest of the bunch because it's built a little bit differently. And when it comes to pricing, the Venu 2 Plus comes in at $450, and then the Venu 2S and Venu 2 come in at $400 or $399. And for the purpose of this video, we're going to ignore the Venu 2S and the Venu 2 and just talk about the Venu 2 Plus, because I feel like it stands the most chance against the Epix. Are you still with me? There was a lot of numbers thrown around there. Now let's talk about the Epix. The Epix Gen 2 comes in at 47mm in diameter, and it's 14.5mm thick, so that actually makes it 2mm thicker than the Garmin Venu 2 Plus. Now when it comes to the Epix, there's only 3 versions, so it's a little easier to wrap your head around. There's a steel version with a Gorilla Glass display at $899, and then there's this titanium version with a black coating and a sapphire lens that actually comes in at $999, which is a lot of money. And I guess that's the first category, would be price, I think. And in that regard, the Garmin Venu 2 Plus wins the price category. Next up, let's talk design, style, aesthetics between these two devices. Obviously, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it's a pretty subjective opinion which one you prefer. The Venu 2 Plus is a modern, minimalistic design. It basically looks like a round piece of glass on your wrist with a thin bezel and 3 buttons, and it doesn't really stand out or get in the way. Now, the Epix Gen 2 is a little bit more noticeable on the wrist. It's definitely that outdoor enthusiast looking watch, a little bit more utilitarian kind of thing. And if you are in an office environment or maybe out with some friends, people are definitely going to notice this on your wrist, because while it does look really cool, it is very bold and stands out. Now, personally, in my opinion, I really like both designs, and it kind of depends what day of the week it is, which one I'd rather be wearing. For the most part, though, I do think I prefer the Epix, just the style of it, but the Venu 2 Plus looks really nice, and it feels great on the wrist because it is smaller and lighter. In this category, when it comes to style, I don't think I can assign a winner. I guess for me, it would be the Epix, but overall, I'm going to call this one a draw because it's too opinion-based. Next category is going to be build quality, and that's where the Epix takes a big lead, but the Venu 2 Plus is still a very premium-made device. Both watches do feature a metal bezel and backplate, and they feel quite robust in the hand. There's no like cheap feeling to these. However, the Epix is rated for military shock and dust resistance, and it's also waterproof to 100 meters or 10 atmospheres, while the Venu 2 Plus is rated for 5 atmospheres or 50 meters. Now on the Epix, if you opt for the sapphire model, you do get a sapphire crystal lens on the display, display, which is extremely scratch resistant. I would almost say it's scratch proof. Nothing scratch proof, but the sapphire lens is really durable, and I've never scratched one in my history with Garmin. And as you can see on the Venu 2 Plus, like I just said, there's not really a bezel and there's no protection for the glass. So if you drop this face down, nothing's gonna bump into it. The first point of contact is going to be the glass, which is not great, and that could lead to scratches down the road. Where when it comes to the Epix, it's got that sapphire lens, like I said, but it also has a little bit of a bezel, a little bit of a lip there. So if you bang something on it, it's gonna have a little bit more protection than the Venu 2 Plus when it comes to durability. So while both are built great, I'm gonna give the win to the Epix when it comes to build quality. All right, let's talk about the star of the show here, and that's going to be the 1.3-inch AMOLED display that both of these watches do have. And they're super bright and vibrant, and I think they're actually the same exact display, even though they're in different case sizes. So on the Venu 2 Plus, it does look a little bit more modern because the bezels around the black area around the display is a little bit thinner. Where on the Epix Gen 2, it is a little bit, it's got some bezels in there, some black, and then you have the metal bezels, so it's not like an edge-to-edge display, and I think the illusion is a little bit more edge-to-edge on the Venu 2 Plus. Both of these displays can be set to always-on mode, so you can see them like all the time. They don't turn off like you just saw on the Venu 2 Plus. Now these displays are super vibrant and bright, and they're readable in just about every situation imaginable. Even if you're in direct, super bright sunlight, you can still see the display on both the Venu 2 Plus and the Epix. It's really not an issue. So again, I'm gonna say this one's a draw because they're actually using the same display technology, same display size, same resolution. So I can't really pick a winner. Yeah. That is what it is. Okay, now let's talk about the user interface between these two watches. Most of your interaction on the Venu 2 is going to be through the touch screen because it only has 3 buttons on the side here. You've got a dedicated start and stop button up here, you've got a dedicated back button at the bottom here, and then you've got a dedicated shortcut key that you can actually map to various functions of the watch. That could be your music app, or you could actually load your Siri or Google Voice Assistant or anything like that to this button, which is pretty cool. On the other hand, if you want to scroll up and down through your widgets like I'm doing here, you have to do it through the touchscreen. There's no option to do with the buttons. So if you're wearing gloves or if it's raining out or wet, it can be a little frustrating to use the touchscreen. Even though this is a really good touchscreen, it can be a little bit annoying in some situations because there are no dedicated buttons for going up and down. Now, when it comes to the Garmin Epix, on the other hand, it's a more traditional layout where you have 5 buttons. So now I can actually scroll up and down throughout my user interface using the buttons and not just be stuck to the touchscreen. But the benefit of the Epix is I also have a touchscreen and I can scroll that with my finger, or I can use the buttons. Entirely my choice overall. And a nice thing about the Epix is you can actually go into the settings if I hold my up button here, and I can actually disable the touchscreen entirely if I don't want to use it. And now if I touch the screen, nothing happens, but if I use my buttons, I can still scroll around. And this is great if I'm in the rain or if it's like snowing out or something. I don't have to worry about accidental swipes on the screen. I really like that functionality on the Garmin Epix. It really makes it versatile. It gives me a choice whether I want to use the touchscreen or use the buttons. When it comes to the actual user interface, the design of the software built into the watches, they're very similar with these widget glances that are built into both. They both display basically the same data. However, I've noticed that the Garmin Venu 2 Plus does have like more colors and more gradients. It's a little bit more poppy. It's a little bit nicer to look at overall. And something very interesting I noticed is there's certain widgets like body battery, for instance. If I dive in here, I can actually scroll horizontally with my finger. And if I do the same thing on the Garmin Epix and I try to scroll horizontally, I can't do that. So you can actually scroll through more data on the Garmin Venu 2 Plus than you can on the Epix. And I found that kind of interesting because I thought this would be the flagship watch, so it should be able to do more. But in that regard, the Venu 2 Plus actually has a little bit of a leg up. Ultimately though, the ability to switch between touchscreen and buttons is a huge win for me. And because of that, I'm going to give the Garmin Epix the win when it comes to the user interface category. When it comes to wellness tracking between the Epix and the Venu 2 Plus, they're nearly identical. They both have the basic metrics like steps, stairs climbed, all-day heart rate monitoring, and more. And then there's Garmin's excellent body battery widget with stress tracking, and there's advanced sleep tracking and all those other tools. So yeah, between these two, it's a draw. Wellness tracking is the same here. The next category is smartwatch, like which one's the better day-to-day smartwatch, and that's kind of where the Venu 2 Plus has a little bit of an advantage, and we'll talk about that in a minute. When it comes to basic features though, both can display notifications from your phone. They have calendar integration with your phone, so they can display upcoming events like birthdays or meetings you might have. Both have an excellent weather widget to see a forecast of upcoming days and hours, and both do offer offline music, So you can store music for a run and leave your phone at home and still have your music with you, and that's a pretty great feature to have. The Venu 2 Plus does have one more trick up its sleeve, and it's that it actually has a built-in microphone and speaker on board the watch itself, and this enables you to be able to take phone calls right on the watch without getting your phone out of your pocket. You can just talk into your wrist. As you can see here, there's a built-in dialer right on the watch, so you can dial a phone number manually and then click the green icon to send it, or you can actually dive into this icon here where you have your contacts stored. The ability to answer phone calls from your wrist is really handy, and I'm surprised they left that off the Epix Gen 2 because it simply doesn't have that function at all. There's no speaker or microphone built into this watch. It's only on the Venu 2 Plus. Another use case of the speaker and microphone built into this watch is that you can actually summon your Google Assistant or Siri or Bixby just by holding the middle button down here. You can see that it connects to my Siri, and now I can ask things like what the weather is or even respond to a text message just by talking to the watch. Now keep in mind, you still need to have your phone physically on you somewhere and paired to the watch for this to work. Another interesting feature on the speaker on the Venu 2 Plus is that you can actually play music right through the speaker of the watch without using earbuds or anything. It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why you do this, but the ability is there, and it actually sounds pretty good. Because of all of these additional features on the Venu 2 Plus with that speaker and microphone, I'm gonna give it the win for the smartwatch category. So congratulations, Venu 2. Now let's talk about training tools, because that's where the Epix Gen 2 really shines. The Venu 2 Plus does support a few key metrics. You've got estimated VO2 max and fitness age, and you can view these right on the watch under your user profile. Venu 2 Plus is also capable of building and executing workouts right on the watch from your wrist without getting your phone out or anything like that, which is pretty cool. However, when we talk about the Garmin Epix Gen 2 and its training tools, it supports all of the advanced training tools that we see on the Garmin Fenix 7 and Fenix 6. We've got the estimated VO2 max, we get the new race predictor with a graph to see your improvement over time. We've got the training status, training load, load focus, and recovery visor built into this watch, and we do get the new stamina data field that gauges how much potential energy you have left during your activities. And I feel like the list of training tools and things that can help aid your training along the way is kind of endless on the Garmin Epix and the Fenix 7, so I'm not going to list everything in this video. I'm just going to give the win to the Epix when it comes to training tools because it's a little bit more advanced. It's way more advanced. When it comes to sensors between these two watches, again, they're very similar. They both have an accelerometer, a gyroscope, a barometric altimeter, and a compass. Both of these watches also do have an ambient light sensor on the front of the display, and that's just to pick up how bright the environment is around the watch. The only sensor missing on the Venu 2 Plus that the Epix has is the internal temperature sensor. Flipping the watches over, you can see that both watches do feature the same Elevate 4.0 heart rate sensor on the back, and this is a great heart rate sensor that I've done some testing on in the past and has delivered pretty solid results. When it comes to accuracy between the Garmin Epix and the Venu 2 Plus and the optical heart rate sensors built into them, I've had kind of mixed results. In some cases, the Epix heart rate sensor was absolutely perfect, and then in other cases there were little minor wobbles and deviations along the way as compared to the Venu 2 Plus and my Polar H9 chest strap. All in all though, the Garmin Epix and the Venu 2 Plus have really similar results, and the deviation I'm seeing I think comes down to the size of the Epix because it's a larger, heavier watch. When it's strapped to my wrist, it might be moving around a little bit more when I'm running. Generally speaking though, if I wasn't comparing these two side by side and I was just comparing the Epix to a chest strap, I'd be pretty impressed with the Epix because in most cases it's doing a bang-on job. I'll be doing a deep dive on the Epix and the Fenix 7's heart rate sensors further down the road, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. But for the purpose of this video, since I want to pick a winner, I'm going to give an ever so slight edge to the Garmin Venu 2 Plus when it comes to heart rate performance and accuracy, because for the most part it just looked a little bit better, a little bit more reliable and stable. There are less wobbles, really splitting hairs here. Both of these are really good. Now let's talk about GPS accuracy because this is a loaded one. The Garmin Venu 2 Plus supports GPS plus GLONASS, and GPS plus Galileo systems. This is all configurable in the watch itself. When it comes to the Garmin Epix Gen 2, on the other hand, it features a new multi-band and multi-frequency technology that allows you to utilize more satellite systems simultaneously when you're out on a run or a ride. Now, this multi-band technology is really exciting, but for the most part, it's really only useful in super challenging situations, like if you're in a slot canyon or you're next to a skyscraper in the city or something like that. Really, for the most part, the basic GPS settings in the Garmin Epix Gen 2 will be more than enough. You should only switch on that multi-frequency mode if you really need it, because this does take a hit in battery life, and we'll talk about that a little later on this video. That said, in terms of overall GPS performance and accuracy between the Venu 2 Plus and the Garmin Epix Gen 2, even in the basic GPS mode, I was seeing better results from the Garmin Epix than on the Venu 2 Plus. It would pick up my turns a little bit sharper, it would pick up my out and backs right on top of each other, and I'm talking about just being in the basic GPS settings and not leveraging that multi-frequency mode at all. So whatever this new GPS chip that they're using in the new generation of Epix and Fenix 7 watches is, it's doing a really good job, and the accuracy from the Epix Gen 2 has been pretty bang on so far. I will be doing a deep dive on the GPS accuracy of the Epix and the Fenix 7 in a separate video, but in this video I'll just say that the Epix takes the lead here, and for that it is the winner in the GPS department. And with all that GPS talk out of the way, we're going to move on to battery life, because they kind of go hand in hand. There's going to be a lot of numbers thrown at you here, so stick with me. On the Garmin Venu 2 Plus, you get up to 9 days of battery life in standby or smartwatch mode in everyday life, and then in GPS mode, when you're out on a run or a ride, you get up to 24 hours. Notice how I said up to in those specs, and that's because the AMOLED display on these watches make it really hard to really dial in how much battery life you're gonna get. If you boost your backlight brightness and turn on always on display mode and turn on the SpO2 sensor, you may reduce your battery life down to like 4 or 5 days, so your mileage may vary. Now when it comes to battery life on the Epix Gen 2, it's a bit of a different story. In standby or smartwatch mode, if you have the always on display turned off, so you're using the gesture-based backlight, you'll get up to 16 days of battery life. If you decide to turn on the always on display, that'll take a big hit. It'll bring you down to 6 days of battery life. And when we talk about GPS modes, if you use GPS only mode, you'll get up to 42 hours. That's with always on display turned off. In GPS plus all systems, you'll get up to 32 hours. And then GPS plus that super accurate multi-frequency mode, you'll get up to 20 hours. And again, those numbers may change if you crank up your backlight brightness or decide to listen to music while you're out on your run. That'll all take a toll on the battery life of the Epix Gen 2. After all that, it's pretty clear that the Garmin Epix is the winner here when it comes to battery life, and it's pretty cool to see an AMOLED display from Garmin that you could run a 100-mile ultra marathon with, because that just didn't exist before. Unless you're a really fast runner and can do it under 24 hours, then you could probably get the Venu 2 Plus. Okay, the next category in this list is going to be activity tracking and activity profiles. The Garmin Venu 2 Plus comes with 30 pre-configured activity profiles. These range from the basics like running and cycling, along with some more unique activities like winter cross-country skiing, climbing, paddleboarding, and high-intensity interval training. The Epix Gen 2, on the other hand, is much the same in terms of activity profiles, but there's a bunch more added on top of that, including multi-sport mode and triathlon mode. And multi-sport mode is just not supported on the Garmin Venu 2 Plus at this time, so just keep that in mind. Now, when you're actually in an activity, both devices have data pages that can be fully customized. However, the Venu 2 Plus only supports up to 4 data fields, while the Epix Gen 2 supports up to 8 data fields. Those additional data fields allow you to see more at a glance without having to swipe and go through various pages. You can see more on one page, which is really nice. The Venu 2 Plus and Epix are both compatible with external sensors like Bluetooth and ANT+ sensors. That could be a heart rate sensor or anything like that. However, the Epix Gen 2 also supports advanced running metrics with certain sensors like the Garmin HRM Pro, while the Venu 2 Plus does not support that. The Epix and the Venu 2 Plus can also broadcast their heart rate from the optical sensor to external devices like a computer if you're using Zwift, or even a treadmill if you want to see your heart rate data on the treadmill. And at the end of the day, when it comes to activity tracking and profiles, I'm going to give the win to the Garmin Epix because it's just got more functionality with more data fields available per page and more compatibility with external sensors. So gets the win. Next category, navigation and mapping. And that's where these two devices are in entirely different leagues. These are not even on the same planet. The Venu 2 Plus has basic bearing navigation that can help guide you when you're out on your run, ride, or hike. This is essentially a big blue arrow that pops up on the display, and it kind of aims you in the right direction when you're out in the field. And that's really kind of it in terms of navigation on the Venu 2 Plus. Now when it comes to the Garmin Epix Gen 2, it's an entirely different story. The Epix Gen 2 has full-blown topo maps, and that is supported by Topo Active Maps, and they can be downloaded right on the watch over Wi-Fi without connecting to a computer or anything like that. These maps are super detailed. They have elevation contours, bodies of water, trail and road names, and they're fully routable right from the wrist, meaning you can select a point and it will actually give you turn-by-turn navigation. And the best part about using this map is that it's compatible with the touchscreen on the Epix Gen 2, which just makes it an awesome user experience. It's like using Google Maps on your phone, basically. These maps also support waypoints and points of interest, and you can use Garmin Garmin connects Course Maker to design courses to upload to the watch and follow in real time. And finally, there's also ski view maps built into the Epix Gen 2, and these are for skiers, and basically it has over 2,000 resorts built into the watch, and you actually see individual ski trails color-coded by difficulty along with the ski trail names, which is really cool. So yeah, this isn't really a contest at all. The Epix takes the lead when it comes to navigation and mapping. There's really no contest here. All right, let's wrap this up. After all that, who's the winner? Which one's the best watch between these two? Well, if you've been keeping track with me, you'd notice that the Epix Gen 2 has taken the lead out of these 13 categories, and I'm not sure if you're surprised. I'm not. It's a really expensive watch. Even though the Epix Gen 2 has won the categories in this video, I do not expect you to run out and buy one right away. This is a $1,000 watch. It's not cheap. So at the end of the day, who are these devices for? Because they're not for the same person. The Epix Gen 2 is designed for trail runners, hikers, ultra runners, triathletes, outdoor enthusiasts that want a capable outdoor-oriented watch, but also want a beautiful, vibrant AMOLED display. The Venu 2 Plus, on the other hand, is designed more for casual wellness, casual runners, people are just trying to get in better shape, general fitness, and you're looking for more of a smartwatch than a fitness watch. You want an alternative to something like an Apple Watch or a Galaxy Watch with more battery life, and that's where the Venu 2 Plus fits in. And honestly, the Venu 2 Plus is a better smartwatch than the Garmin Epix. It's just not there when it comes to all the sports and navigation functions compared to the Epix. And that kind of wraps up this video. Sorry if it was kind of inconclusive, even though there's a winner. They're just for different people. And now I want to hear from you. Which one interests you, the Garmin Venu 2 Plus or the Epix? Let me know in the comments down below which feature sold you one way or the other. I'd love to hear from you. That's all I've got for this one. I hope you liked it, and if you did, maybe give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos like this in the future. That would be great. And if you are interested in picking up an Epix or a Fenix 7 or even the Garmin Venu 2 Plus, check out the links in the description down below because they do help support my channel, and I appreciate that. I've been talking way too much now. I gotta go. I gotta go home. Okay, bye.